Okie dokie, Pickle. Let's get to some headlines from across the state.
A plethora.
A lot of them. We're going to start in college and go to high school. We're going to start with the news that came down last week, and that was that what came out of Houston, that Houston is going to be down one of their star players for at least a large chunk of the season. That is Alton Mccaskill.
Not one you want to have down.
The star running back, he sent this out last week saying that he had torn his ACL. From everything that we heard, it was the dreaded non-contact injury.
Mm-hmm.
That's
you want to talk about like a gut punch more than ever, it's that.
If a guy goes down in a heap and he doesn't get touched, you know it's bad.
Yep.
He was a freshman All-American last year. He set the freshman school record for freshmen with 18 touchdowns. So, let's talk timetable. So this happened April 2nd, okay? April 2nd is when he sent out that this had happened. Typically, and look, this is ACL. We certainly hope that he comes back, and surgery is, the medical procedure has certainly improved over the course of the years. But there's a possibility he never comes back. But realistically, let's talk about a time frame. A time frame would be, I think, a reasonable time frame for an ACL is about 8 months. About 8 months. Here's the problem. That would put him in for December 1.
Yep.
If he were to go and he were to have successful surgery, which it sounds like he did, successful surgery, and then have the 8-month recovery time, that would put him right at the beginning of December. So maybe he could be back for an AAC championship game, or maybe he could be back for a bowl game. But that also feels like most things would have to go right. He wouldn't have any setbacks.
Right.
And then at that point, it's also the kind of thing of let's say if they are not in the AAC championship game, they're just going to a bowl.
Yeah, then
I gotta
there's
be
no
honest.
point. Can he still get? Does he have a medical red shirt left that he can get?
Yes, I believe he could.
Then
so
yeah,
he
don't
could
waste
have
that.
and stuff like that. For now, I'll tell you the way I'm thinking of it, and the way that we're kind of going to treat it in the magazine. I'm going to assume he's out for the whole year.
Yeah. I would agree.
I think that's a reasonable assumption.
And I feel like they should do that so they can prep in the offseason and take advantage of thinking that.
Speaking of running backs at Houston, they added a running back. There's no way that they knew he was going to tear his ACL, and then they had this guy they'd been on the horn with Brandon Campbell for a while, but Brandon Campbell,
just a decent timing thing.
USC running back who's out of the Houston area, actually played at 3 high schools while he was in high school. He is coming back home to play at Houston. He only got a few touches there at USC. Probably looked around at the new, everything going on there with Lincoln Riley. Said, all right, I'm going to bounce, come back home. And so he is going to be there. So now I would say Brandon Campbell's a very good running back. I think they would probably prefer to have Alton Mccaskill. That's just me. But anyway, they have added a running back in Brandon Campbell there. Speaking of bad news with running backs and knees.
This is not a cool trend.
No, Kadrick Cobbs. Kadrick Cobbs has announced, the UTSA running back announced that he has torn his ACL as well.
Which is a bigger deal considering Sincere McCormick is not there.
Correct. He was going to be in the competition for the starting running back job. Now, I think it was always going to be a committee.
Yeah.
But he was certainly going to get a lot of heavy touches. The Denton Geyer product is now going to most likely, like we just said about Alton Mccaskill, likely going to be out for the entire season. That's going to hurt the depth there at UTSA for the running back. We have in-state transfer Pickle. Jake Bailey, the wide receiver from Rice, has announced that he is transferring to SMU. Jake Bailey was the leading receiver pretty much in every category for Rice last year and was, in my opinion, their most reliable offensive weapon.
Absolutely.
Last year.
I wonder how that happened. A pipeline from Rice to SMU. Interesting.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Interesting.
That feels like you're accusing somebody of tampering. I would never accuse anybody of tampering. But he will, and remember, there's an SMU receiver core that certainly... Stop pointing at that. That's a joke for two. There's an SMU receiver core that certainly needs a boost, right? Reggie Roberson and Danny Gray are off to the NFL draft. Stop laughing. And so they've got Jake Bailey coming in. Jake Bailey obviously did big things at Rice. He'll be expected to do big things at SMU. Are you okay?
No, that's so funny. I can't wait to show. I don't have a camera pointed
You want to turn the camera?
Yeah.
It's going to change as soon as you change
I
the
know.
camera.
I look over, and that's what we're looking at. Why is that like that? Sorry. Woo. I wasn't expecting it.
I don't think anybody was expecting it. Anyway, on to the other news. Speaking of the transfer portal, Baylor has added a linebacker coming back to the state of Texas, Josh White. Josh White was a starter linebacker from Cypress. He went to, I want to say Side Creek?
You don't ever want to mess that up because the lovely folks in Cypress will absolutely ring you for it.
Is it Side Creek? Everybody says Side Creek. Let's go!
Ding 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 ding. We got a winner.
Side Creek. He went to LSU out of high school. He only saw a little bit of time. He's now coming back to Texas to play at Baylor. Big pickup there as they add in another talented young linebacker there in Josh White. Conference USA.
Coosa.
This is a little bit old, but it's worth mentioning because it's kind of big. So you guys remember there was the whole thing, and I threw this out there, about Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss said, we want to leave Conference USA early. Conference USA was like, well, no, you don't. They've come to a settlement, and they are leaving. They've now put out new schedules because there's 3 fewer teams. You got to remove them from the teams. So we've got those up on TexasFootball.com if you want to go see the updated Conference USA schedules for 2022.
How do you feel about UNT UTEP in week 0 in El Paso? Wild.
We're going to go?
Yeah, it's the first week of the football season. That's what I was saying. Like, I went last year. I should go again. I should make that my first week thing.
Them find an El Paso game in week 1 and tell Bally you're going to do it and have fun.
Yep.
Stick with me. Okay, other news. Hey, remember when Lamar left the Southland?
I do.
So they left the Southland to go to the WAC. They left the Southland to go to the WAC. They are, after 1 year there, they're coming back.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
2023, Lamar's going to come back to the Southland. Now, I think this is a pretty big deal for the Southland because they were kind of hemorrhaging members.
Especially with the loss of TMUC. Commerce.
Yeah.
Commerce.
This it's a Lone Star Conference. So
oh,
they
God.
are. Yes, I know. It's all. I know it's a whole thing. But they were hemorrhaging members, and they were kind of scrambling to hold things together because you remember, like, Sam Houston's leaving to move up, and then other teams like Stephen F. were leaving for the WAC and things like that. This is not to say that Lamar is some juggernaut, but I think just to stem the tide against the Southland, it's really important for them to bring Lamar back. So Lamar is rejoining the Southland in 2023. Texas A&M held their spring game. I think they called the Maroon and White game.
Seems right.
I only watched snippets and highlights of it, but highlights are going to be deceiving. Everything that I read from people was that the quarterback situation felt a little unsettled.
Okay.
That it was a little bit. They ran 3 quarterbacks out there.
Because who all was
it? Haynes King, Connor Wigman, and the transfer Max Johnson.
Yep.
It sounds like Max Johnson looked the best of the 3.
Where did he come from again?
LSU.
Okay.
Haynes King coming off of his ACL surgery or his knee surgery was back out there. Everything that I read from the people that I trust said that Max Johnson looked the best, but that overall it just kind of looked like the quarterback situation. So keep an eye on that. But here's the headline, the only headline that matters. There were no injuries. So everyone wins there. A&M defeated A&M by the score of something to something. Sad news out of, I believe, in Fritch, Texas. Okay. And that is that John Legron has passed away. John Legron, you may remember, was a star at SMU, an All-American, and probably most known around these parts as the cover boy of the 1966 edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. He was on there with Greg Pipes and Dyron Talbert. They were it was like the only time we've ever put linemen on the cover. Yeah. Was back in 1966, but he is the main guy in the middle, and John Legron. He has passed away at the age of 77. So Dave Campbell's Texas Football cover boy, John Legron, passing away at the age of 77, the SMU star. Bob Bolesby stepping down as a Big 12 commissioner. Did you hear about this? Did you hear about this, Kev? He's stepping down after a long and I would say tumultuous tenure at the Big 12. He oversaw A&M leaving. He oversaw Missouri leaving. He oversaw Colorado leaving. He oversaw them adding in TCU and West Virginia. And then, I don't know. Bob Bolesby's legacy is going to be really interesting. Because on one hand, he held the conference together when there was every reason for it to die. But on the other hand, he always struck me as very reactive. The Big 12 always struck me as very reactive.
They never, ever had a plan going anything.
Didn't seem like it. And so Bob Bolesby is stepping down, I believe, at the end of the year. So they are on the search. Big 12 looking for a new commissioner.
That's got to be a hard job to be looking for at this point.
Big news out of the FCS ranks. Do you see this? Sam Houston quarterback Eric Schmidt, a national champion quarterback, will forego his final year of eligibility. He's going to go play at the professional level. He's going to enter the NFL draft. He's going to try to get there. He may end up, who knows. Now there's a bunch of different other options for him to go. He's going to go play professionally. He was the focal point of the offense for probably the better part of the last 3 seasons. We're going to see they're dipping into the transfer portal to replace him. They got Jordan Yates out of Georgia Tech to transfer to Sam Houston. And so, of course, a national champion quarterback. He will live forever there in Huntsville, but he is off to the next level. Eric Schmidt, the Woodlands product, will forego his final season there at Sam Houston. Okay, on to the high school side. We got some major shakeups here. And this was a step bomb dropped by our own Matt Stepp this morning. And this was something that we had heard a little bit about. There's a little bit of smoke around this, and it finally came to fruition. Matt Stepp confirming that Rodney Webb, the head coach at Denton Guyer, is stepping down, as he's phrasing it, retiring from coaching there at Denton Guyer. After just 2 seasons there, of course, he led them to a state championship there in 2021.
Longtime Rockwall guy for before then.
Exactly right. He is a guy who has been around the block and been has a very solid coaching resume. He announced that he is retiring. So that is what is official.
Yes.
Let me tell you what we are hearing. What we are hearing is that he is going to move into the administration duties at another school district.
Yes.
Matt Stepp has posited that he believes that school district is Highland Park. Johnny Ringo, we mentioned, is retiring there.
Yes.
They're looking for an athletic director. That would certainly fit.
Yep.
We have not confirmed that. This is only, let's say, informed speculation about Rodney Webb. But all this means is that Denton Guyer's open. And obviously that's a big job out there.
Especially with Jackson Arnold sitting right there like the pretty prize right on top.
A 3-year starter, Jackson Arnold, and a good young core of talent there at Denton Guyer is going to be a good job there. And
this will be his 3rd coach in his high school tenure. That's crazy to think about.
John Walsh's freshman year,
and then
Rodney Webb his sophomore, junior, and then whoever they hire as a senior.
Like someone that prolific to have 3 coaches in high school football, especially with a program that keeps getting back to the state championship. Right. It's not just one that it's like, oh, well, he's a great player, but it never worked out. Wild.
Here's another thing about that. They are... This is one of those tip-top programs where I feel like the applicant pool is going to be pretty big. But Denton ISD tends to, in my experience, look within before they look without.
Oh, yeah.
I think they want to have Denton guys in there. That's not to say that they won't look outside.
No.
But
I think that they'll look outside, but I think the pool of people that they look out is going to be way smaller than what people would expect.
Also consider now both teams in the 6A Division II state championship game are going from last year have new coaches in Westlake, which we expected.
Right.
And now Denton Guyer, which we did not. Rodney Webb has stepped down there at Denton Guyer. This came down last week. Katie Pato. Speaking of, watch this transition.
Yep.
Okay. No. I got plan this out.
Okay.
So that's Denton Guyer.
Right.
Let's talk about Denton Ryan.
Okay.
Denton Ryan, their head coach Dave Hennigan, he's still there. Don't worry.
Yeah. I was like, you just gave some people a heart attack.
But he is on the lookout for a new offensive coordinator.
Because
their offensive coordinator, Lonnie Teagle, has left to become the new head coach at Katy Pato. You may remember Katy Pato, the defending 5A Division I state champs, moving up to 6A.
BJ Gott went to Pearland.
Bingo, bango. They're looking for a head coach. They hire Katy Pato, or they hire Lonnie Teagle, the offensive coordinator at Denton Ryan. So Katy Pato now has a new head coach. Let's bounce back to the Metroplex.
Okay.
bounce back to the Metroplex because they, the Lion Teagle needing to build a staff down there at Katy Pato, right? Needing to go down there and build a staff with them. He has hired an assistant coach, David Hicks. He has hired him off of the Allen staff to be on his staff there at Katy Pato. David Hicks has a son. David Hicks' son is DJ Hicks.
May have heard of him.
The defensive end, the 5-star defensive end, arguably the best prospect in the class of 2023, a menace off the edge. He is now going to play his senior season at Katy Pato. So we went from Denton Guyer to Denton Ryan to Katy Pato, Katy Pato to Allen. It all connects.
And that's just another state champion program or at least one that contended. I mean, they won, but that didn't. That doesn't have a new or doesn't have their same coach.
The four finalists in the 6A Division II and 5A Division I state championship games all have new coaches.
Wow.
Westlake, now Denton Guyer, Katy Pato,
and
College Station. Pretty remarkable. Finally, one more thing to get to, and that is that Spring is going to have a new head coach as their coach has stepped down.
Trent Miller.
Trent Miller. Thank you very much. Trent Miller has stepped down to take over the job at Willis. He is leaving to go take over at Willis. There with the Wildcats with a K. So we will see how he handles there. But that would open up a job there at Spring, which is a pretty darn good.
That's an enticing job.
Most certainly.
And if you haven't been out to that new stadium that they play out down there, it's immaculate.
So there you go. There's all the headlines that I could find over the last couple of weeks. So we wanted to cram into one giant segment. So headlines from across the state.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.